Hello everyone, welcome to Bev's Footy Tips for Round 9 of the 2022 AFL season. Gee, we're up to Round 9 already. This season is just steaming along, that is for sure. But we've got plenty to get through in this video, so let's get straight into it. Let's begin by taking a look at who won Round 8 of the Bev Show tipping comp. Now, I thought it was quite a tough round of tipping. There were a couple of upsets. But a big congratulations to your boy Ross69. He correctly guessed 8 out of the 9 matches correct, and he was only 1 point off the margin. So your boy Ross69 is the round 8 winner of the Bev Show tipping comp. Whoa! You beauty to you, Ross. You ripper dipper. And the only game he got wrong was the Sydney game, of course, Gold Coast defeating Sydney. And there was a couple of more tipsters who also guessed 8 out of the 9 matches correct, but your boy Ross69 was the closest to the margin. So well done to you, Ross. Let's take a look at the overall leaderboard now, and a big shout out to Cade Fagan. He has taken the lead from Prout House and is top with 53 total tips, ahead of Prout House, who has dropped to second. He's on 52 total tips. In third spot is Frio90, also on 52 total tips. Fourth is Minavini, also on 52 total tips. And Go Blues 1012 rounds out the 5 with 51 total tips. Let's run through my round 8 tipping results now, starting with the Dogs and Port Adelaide. I, of course, tipped my beloved Western Bulldogs in that match. Tough night for the Doggies. They were a little disappointing in the end in that game. I tipped Freo over North Melbourne. I tipped the Tigers over Collingwood. I tipped Sydney over Gold Coast. I tipped Geelong over GWS. I tipped Hawthorn over Essendon. Outstanding come from behind win from the Bombers there in that game last Saturday night. I tipped the Lions over West Coast. I tipped Melbourne over St Kilda. And in the final game of the round, I tipped Carlton over the Adelaide Crows. So just the 6 out of the 9 matches correct. I think that's the second week in a row now that I've only got 6 out of 9. That brings me to a total of 48 tips. I'm hoping to do a little bit better in round 9. So let's get into my round 9 tips. Round 9 begins on Friday night with Collingwood taking on the Western Bulldogs. This is 9th v 10th at Marvel Stadium, beginning at 7:50 p.m. Should be a good game, this one. I think it's a big game for both teams. I think it might be an even bigger game, though, for the Western Bulldogs, given a lot of people expected them to be making finals this season. They lose this game, the Doggies, they start to really lose touch of the top 8, given Collingwood are already 4 points ahead of the Doggies on the ladder right now. But if they are to win, the Doggies, then they keep themselves in touch to a certain extent. Thought the Doggies were really disappointing defensive-wise against Port Adelaide last week. They conceded 21 marks inside their defensive 50. Although Collingwood, they weren't much better when it came to defence last week either. They played Richmond and lost that game. I was quite surprised that Darcy Moore was the only key defender in that Collingwood defence last week. I know they got Roughhead out and he's probably another key to that defence, but even so, I just felt like Darcy Moore was left to do most of the work against the Tigers last week. But my tip in this one, look, I'm going to back the Doggies in here. I'm backing my team. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I think if the Doggies are to win, they're just going to have to grind it out and find a way, and I think they will. So I'm tipping them to win the game by 5 points. I'll go 5 points in what should be a close game at Marvel to kick off round 9. The first of 5 Saturday matches is Hawthorn taking on Richmond at the MCG. This is an afternoon game beginning at 1:45 p.m. Richmond coming into this game off the back of a 27-point win over Collingwood. They've won their last 2 now. The Tigers, they're looking good, and they're taking on Hawthorn, who I thought controlled a majority of the match against the Bombers last week. But that last quarter was quite concerning. They conceded 50 points in that last quarter, and they just they just struggle to put together 4 quarters of footy, don't they, the Hawks? And that's what's, I think, letting them down this season. They have improved. They've improved more than we thought they would, but their consistency throughout the whole game is a letdown for the Hawks this season. The last time these two teams met was in round 23 last season, and it ended in a draw, but I don't think it will end in a draw this time. I think the Tigers will defeat the Hawks at the MCG. The other Saturday afternoon game is at Blundstone Arena in my neck of the woods, Hobart. It's North Melbourne taking on Port Adelaide. This game to begin at 2:10 p.m. Port Adelaide, they've won 3 in a row now. They look like they've got their season back on track after losing their first 5 games of the season. And they're taking on a North Melbourne team who are second last on the ladder. Of course, there was some news revealed during the week that David Noble had to apologise to his team after giving them a spray in the round, was it the round 3 game, I think, against the Brisbane Lions, or whatever round it was. Might have been round 2, round 4. I don't know what round it was. I can't remember. But it'll be interesting to see how North Melbourne respond off the back of that. Port Adelaide should win this. They should put together 4 wins in a row and, increase their chances of making finals. At 4:35 p.m. at Marvel Stadium, it's St Kilda taking on Geelong. Very intriguing game, this one. Of course, these two teams currently sit inside the top 8. St Kilda have lost their last 2. They're coming into this match off the back of a loss to Melbourne. It was a bad loss, although I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think St Kilda's best this season is good enough to make the 8. They're taking on Geelong, who were very good against the Giants last weekend, but I feel like the Cats are a bit of a mixed bag of lollies this season. Like, they just seem to win one week and then lose the next. So, yeah, very intriguing game, this one. I have a feeling that St Kilda will win this. I just feel like they've lost their last 2. They're now back at Marvel. I think they're due to bounce back and win. And so I'm going to tip the Saints in this one. They're going to have to kick straight, though. If they're inaccurate, then you can forget it. And they're also going to have to shut down Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins. You shut those 2 down, and I think you shut the Cats down. So, St Kilda might tip in this one. Just have a funny feeling that the St Kilda might bounce back and win this one, but it's going to go either way, this game. It will be a good one. The first of 2 Saturday night matches. It's the Sydney Swans taking on the Essendon Bombers. This game at the SCG starting at 7:25 p.m. How good were the Bombers last week? That 4th quarter was just outstanding. It was an outstanding come-from-behind win against the odds. They scored the last 7 goals against the Hawks, and they scored a total of 50 points in that last quarter alone. Although, are they going to be able to go on with it now? That's the question I've got. And they're not going to be able to score 50 points in a quarter most weeks, I don't think. So, it's going to be interesting to see whether they can go on with it. I think that's a question that's going to be answered in the coming weeks. They're taking on the Swans, though, who have lost their last 2. I don't think they were that bad against the Brisbane Lions. Like I said last week, I think it was, they will take some learnings out of that game, but they were just poor against the Gold Coast Suns last week. And to be fair, they were beaten by a better team on the day, and that team was the Suns. But look, I still think the Swans are a top 4 team. I still rate them as a team, and because of that, I'm going to tip the Swans to bounce back and beat the Bombers. The other Saturday night match is at 7:40 p.m. at the Adelaide Oval. It is the Adelaide Crows taking on the Brisbane Lions. The Crows, they're coming off a couple of bad losses after beating the Dogs a few weeks ago, and they're taking on a Brisbane team who I think are the second best team in the comp behind Melbourne. So I think that gives you my tip. Brisbane should be way too good for the Crows in that match. Moving on to the Sunday matches now. The first of them is the Gold Coast Suns taking on Fremantle at Metricon Stadium, 1:40 p.m. start time. Gold Coast, how good was that win against the Swans last week? It was a good win. It was an upset win. Not a lot of people saw it coming. They seem to like the SCG for some reason. But now they're back at home, and they've played some good footy at home this season. And they're taking on a Freo team who currently sits second on the ladder. They've only lost the 1 game. Given how well Freo have been doing this season. They really should be winning this game, but I think the Suns can take it up to them, but I don't think it'll be enough. The 3:20 Sunday afternoon matches at Giants Stadium, the Greater Western Sydney Giants taking on Carlton. I'm sure most of you have heard the news by now that Leon Cameron has resigned as GWS coach, and this will be his farewell game. And how often do we see teams win games when they know their coach is coaching their last game? We saw it last year with Nathan Buckley. We saw it a few years ago with Brad Scott. It's probably happened a couple of other times, which I can't quite remember. So, given that factor, I'm going to tip the Greater Western Sydney Giants to win this game. I was originally going to tip Carlton, but given that Leon Cameron farewell game factor, I'm going to tip GWS. I just feel like that lifts teams. Now, Carlton, they've been good. They were very good against the Crows last week, winning that game convincingly. They lose Harry Mackay, though. That's a big loss, and they haven't won interstate out of 2 games. So, so big game. Was going to tip the Blues, but I'm going to tip GWS. And the final game of the round, West Coast taking on Melbourne at Optus Stadium, 5:20 p.m. start time. Do I need to talk about this match too much? Probably not. Melbourne, they really should be winning this game. If they lose this game, then it will probably be one of the biggest upsets we've seen in some time, I think. Melbourne top of the ladder. They're 8-0. They're the team to beat at the moment. And West Coast are bottom of the ladder and just really struggling this season. So Melbourne should be winning this game very, very comfortably. So just recapping my round 9 tips. I've tipped the Dogs by 5 points. I've tipped Richmond, Port Adelaide, St Kilda, Sydney, Brisbane, Fremantle, GWS, and Melbourne. And there you go, folks. That's another episode of Bears Footy Tips done and dusted for another week. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give this video a thumbs up. Would really appreciate it. I'd also really appreciate if you comment down below your tips for the upcoming round or any feedback you have. Love reading your comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Would really appreciate that also. I've got some content planned for the coming weeks, so you won't want to miss that, and you won't miss it by pressing that subscribe button. But thanks again for watching, and until next time, go the Doggies! Catch you later.